Hi, I'm Vail Fucci, and welcome to my studio. After I import my images, the first thing I like to do is go through and pick out which images I'm actually going to go ahead and use and edit. So with this, when I'm in Adobe Lightroom, I've gone ahead and imported several more pictures from this shoot that we had there. Right now I'm in the library mode there, which has lots of different viewing modes that you have of like the single individual picture that is the loop view, as they'll call it. You can compare them. The one that I find to be really useful, that most people don't even know is there, is the survey view. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you what I mean by the survey view. Because in the grid view, you have all this space around the outside of it there, and I get some type of an idea of it, but it's a lot. I can go ahead and make the thumbnails bigger and look at it that way, but I really prefer doing it this way. That's what I'm going to show you right now. So as I go through my images, depending on if it was a different pose or whatever, I'll select as many as I want. And I'll go ahead and press N, the hotkey there, or I'll go ahead and just click on this here on the survey view. And you'll notice there is way less of all that information around it, so my images are able to be bigger. If they really seem tiny, what I can go ahead and do is press Tab, because if you end up having all this stuff on the side, it's kind of hard to view it, but I don't need that when I'm just selecting my images. So when I'm going through and picking stuff out of selecting, what I will often do is first just go ahead and start being able to click off and get rid of the ones I don't like. So here, obviously, the background light didn't work. Here, I'm looking a bit broad. Here, something fell right in front of it, so you're not even able to be seeing it there. I can go ahead, and you'll notice as I do this, and I can see, ones that I really don't like right off the bat, that it's rearranging and making them get larger and larger, which will make my job of picking the images easier and easier of narrowing it down. Overall, starting with as many as I started, which was 56 images, is a bit much. You probably want to start with smaller swaths of it unless you're working on an extremely large monitor. So let's go ahead and bring it down to something a little bit more reasonable. All right, let's start about halfway. Okay, we've got 20 pictures here. So again, we're able right off the bat to be able to pick out the ones we don't like. All right, and I go up, nope, not that. Bit deer in headlights here, looking broad and wide, not so happy. And you can see how I can really quickly narrow things down here, all the way to the ones that I like the best. Now from this mode, I can also at any point double click on it, and then that takes me back into its loop mode where I can, dive in, see details nicely there, and I can go through just by using my arrow keys back and forth to rotate through the series. So as I'll do that, I will end up putting P for pick on the ones that I think have potential there. And if they seem like they're just outright stars, I may put like a 1 for a star on there. Okay. Nope. Huh. All right, that was it for that batch. Then I'll move forward. I'll click on several more. Go through, look and see. I can even sometimes do the P for pick, right, just from this view, because you can just tell right off the bat I'm going, oh, yep, I can tell that that's probably going to be a good one I like. P for pick. I can do it in that view that I'm in right there too. And to unpick it, you would just press the P for pick, U for unpick to remove the flag, but P for pick. Okay. And we go through, and I'll go to the next chunk and go up. I look pretty genuinely happy there. Oh, but I don't like how it's spaced. I go back and I already know I can take that one out. Oh, that's nice. There we go. And go through. Now you can do it that way, or you can just literally go through image by image and go and say, okay, good or not good as you go through and pick and select. It's totally up to you what your personal preference is. I find when I'm reviewing lots of images that are very, very similar, it is far easier for me to tell and quickly be able to discern which are ones that are keepers or get rid of by looking at them on a big swath like this all at once. And so once that's done, I can go in my filter and I press my flags and I can see the images that I have flagged as the ones I would want to edit. All right, now let's go and see how we do that in Capture One. All right, we have our whole series here, and as we showed, we can have our browser be either on the right-hand side there, and I can make this larger like this, and switch around our view in that way, making those larger. I can put that smaller. I can also go into View, customize, this is our browser there, and place it below, so it's more typical to what you've experienced in Lightroom. If you want it to be a grid type of situation that you're looking at the same time, you can make this part bigger and be able to run through here and make your thumbnails be whatever size you want. And the nice thing with this is the thumbnail resolutions are all really well generated. They don't get really pixely when you make them larger if you have it in this grid format there. But typically you'd probably be more used to, coming from the Lightroom world, having it go in this type of format there. And I did that right up here, and by switching and toggling on this little format, instead of it being in the grid format, it goes to rows, as opposed to being able to search through files. So we can do it that way, or we will go ahead and switch it on over. But let's do it as if we were our typical Lightroom setup to make it as easy as possible on us for switching. So you would like to review images. When we were over in Lightroom, we could have as many as we wanted over in Survey View. On the mode with Capture One, you can only have as many as 12 to fit on the screen at a time. It's probably smart, because anything more than that, they tend to get to be too small to really be able to tell much of anything. So you can either just go ahead and select your first image you want to start with, and select the final one while holding down Shift, and you get your different images here. Let's see, we're coming close. I've got 10, 12, and let's see, if we go to 13, what happens? All right, then we only get 11 displayed, and it tells us 2 more. So we know that that's too many. So let's do, just looking at it, the maximum 12 that it has there at a time to be viewing. From here, you can have it so that you're able to see this information on each of them, or you can go ahead and turn that off so that it looks even more similar to what we had in survey mode over there in Lightroom. By doing this, we can turn off labels. And there we go. Now our images are ever so slightly larger that we have with that here. If we want to make sure that we have as much space as possible around there, we're able to go into Preferences and for our margin there, and go ahead and make this bigger or smaller here. I like to have my images be as big as possible, so I make my margins and proof margins to be 0. And I can exit out of that. And so now I have them nice and large. Now, if I want to go through here and do similarly to how I did in Lightroom of being able to X out things, you'll notice that there is no X on here. The way we're able to do this is by just merely making our selection no longer be that image to be part of the selection. So obviously, say this one we don't like, I'm just going to hit Command and click at the same time. And now it's no longer included in my selection. Going ahead through all these different ones, then I'm going, okay, not a fan of, and not a fan of. And the nice thing is here, it's still retaining that selection, we can go ahead and, unfortunately, it doesn't just do the simple double click and it goes into the different mode. We'd have to go ahead and back over here and toggle this, and now we can see the images and go and select through the ones that we had it down to and be able to see those images larger if we want to. With that, I can also see, like, for example, I go, oh, that one clearly is not good. I can, within the same view, do that same thing of holding down Command, and that goes away. If I want to go back to that view, I've got those things there, and now I say, okay, with these, I'm going to say that one of these is good for selecting. They don't do a P for pick on here. I have my options of doing labeling it by number of stars and also by color. So say I wanted to go ahead and label that one with a star. I pressed 1, but you may not see it because what I ended up doing was I had turned off those labels. If I turn my labels back on, now I can see here. I can also click and pick my colors with that, and I can select and turn it to be a specific color to categorize it as well, because later I can go ahead and do filters on the basis of things that are either on my ratings or on my color tags with it there. So just for the time being right now, I'll do a color tag on that one of green and a 1-star rating there. Now, say I want to go to my next bit of pictures here. I can actually go ahead and have it auto select a set by me just pressing Option and my arrow key over, and it will now pick my next grouping. It'll pick the exact amount of what I had already selected in there. So sometimes it's easier in doing that, and it does it from the last image that was in that previous set that we had of going through. The other thing to note is when we went and did our previous set there of looking through, with those that we had, when we had those multiple ones selected, if, for example, I limit it to ones that we had that were starred, if you recall, I did not mentally think, oh, I'm putting on a single star. I thought I was just doing one. That's a very common mistake that you can make, because you have to make sure if you were doing that, oops, all of them got starred, because this edit selected part toggles between just the primary and all these different ones. So I needed to, if I wanted all of these to have been something, I could do that and make them all be starred. So in this case, I didn't want all these to be starred. So I'm actually going to set their value to be 0. If I go back now and seeing my different ones, and it was that one that was green, and say we still had multiple of these on the screen, but I just wanted only that single image to have the star rating go with it, I need to make sure that this is turned off. Now when I press 1, it goes ahead and just shows me the single star on the one that I wanted. It no longer makes it so everything that's selected gets it. So say here, if I wanted to make that 2 stars, just that one got 2 stars there. It didn't go across the board. Versus if we have edit selected, because it's all those ones there, and I have that multiple, and I go and I change it to 4 stars. Now you'll see everything across the board got 4 stars. I'm going to set that back to 0, put 1 there. You'll note that even though I had that edit selected part there of all those on, when I went and selected that portion and made a color, all of them don't change at the same time. The color labeling is only specific to that individual picture. So say I've gone through these 8 here, figured out what I liked, what I didn't. Let's see if I did that command and take these ones out. And now I want to go to my next set, so I hit Option and my arrow key to the right. And there we go. It takes us, it remembered where we were from our selection before and went to the next 6. So I can now go through and select again without having to go and select the next big chunk of what I wanted. It automatically remembered, okay, I want 6 more images there. If I wanted to just keep adding to this, I can hold down Shift and my arrow, and this is going to keep adding to my grid up until 12. Again, we've seen before, if I try to go over 12, bam, that's what happens. So I pressed my arrow key back so that I was back to my 12. So I can go through and select in a similar fashion to the way I did in the survey mode before on Lightroom. It's a bit different with it there, but at the same time, it will do the same of as you get to be having fewer and fewer images in here that you've selected. Let's say here we go and we take these out here where I'm looking pretty small with it. You're going to see eventually when you get to a smaller number of images, there we go, so that it could do more rows, the images will actually get larger as you go along, which makes your image selection easier to accomplish at that point when you see the images getting so much bigger. Just like that. And that's how you make selections in Capture One. All you have to do is once you've gone through and starred those, you can go and use your filters and click on that so that you can get the selections that you made and edit those. In the next video, we'll go over how to edit these images.